I am Jenna Bosonko, and this is Qtv News, coming to you live from our studios along Kaiba Avenue. Thanks for joining us. Here are the main local, international and business news headlines. There's tense situation in Sanyang after one man is killed and many left injured. The situation spiraled out of control after a suspected bicycle theft was being pursued. A suspected bicycle thief, was being pursued. Now Gambians gathered in their numbers to pay their last respects to Alhaji Mahmoud Job, the Inspector General of Police, who was laid to rest on Sunday. Gambian lawyer and women's rights advocate Musubako Tosao has received the prestigious Daily Trust African of the Year award. In business news, celebration of International Women's Day continue as women entrepreneurs receive solar lamps and water tank donations. In international news, the U.S. government has joined the chorus of disapproval over the Ethiopian government's actions in its Tigray region. Those were the main headlines, and now the news in detail. Do stay with us. Thank you for joining us, and I am Jenna Bosonko. Now, tensions have flared in Sanyang after a man was allegedly stabbed to death in the wake of an incident of theft. The police have arrested the murder suspect, who is believed to be a fisherman of Senegalese nationality. Mamadou Lamin Choi has the rest of that.
The village of Sanyang is today greeted by a violent protest in the wake of a young man who was allegedly stabbed to death when he tried to intercept an attack involving a thief and his neighbor, a white man. The incident led to violent protests and the setting on fire of a local fish meal factory, a police station, and boats at the fish landing site. A man believed to be a Senegalese fisherman was allegedly involved in stealing a bicycle and, while being pursued, broke into a house in the neighborhood. The intervention of concerned neighbors turned into a bloody incident, leading to a loss of life and injuries.
Just after dinner, we heard a shout from our neighbor, a white man, who was calling for help when a thief broke into his house. We rushed to the scene and found the thief had locked himself in our neighbor's house. Then we broke into the house and found the thief with 2 knives in his hand. We tried to tackle him, and he stabbed my brother twice. I rushed him to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
The suspect is now in the hands of the police after he was reportedly seriously beaten up by the neighbors who came to the crime scene. In the wake of the murder incident last night, youth in Sanyang escalated into an angry, violent mob whose reactions have been destructive. Their first point of call was to set on fire a local police station and a fish meal factory. The youth are unhappy with the reaction of the police to the incident. However, we are yet to establish the facts about that.
It's painful, you know. Hey, the man is my friend. It's my friend.
Boys are, demonstrating. They say they don't want to see any Senegalese fishermen in Sanyang. Let them all go back. Even the family that committed this murder yesterday night, they smuggled all their family members. They went through the boat.
The initial incident appears to have spiraled out of control and used as an excuse to settle a range of grievances. At the Nasim Fish Meal Factory, staff and officials of the facility ran for their lives to escape attack by the mob. The fish meal factory was not spared and appears to be the victim of years of protest by the youth who believe that its operations are harmful to their environment and exploitative of local marine resources. This time, a building that was highly secure was broken into by the mob and set on fire, destroying some of the most valuable assets in the premises. It is also believed that looting has taken place at the site, which shows some breaking into safes and flaying with various currencies.
Okay,
The destruction has also creeped into the fish landing site, where some properties and boats that mob believes are owned by Senegalese fishermen were also burned to ashes. This young Gambian man is shocked because the destruction has also covered their materials.
Easy wood, boy. It is not easy for us right now. All our materials are burnt. We are calling for government's intervention because we don't have nothing to work with. We can't understand this.
The violent confrontation between the police and the youth have reportedly resulted in some people being admitted to hospital with various injuries. Roads leading to places on fire are blocked. The fire rescue services were not allowed passage to put out the fires, according to the fire services PRO. While tensions have simmered down for now, the community is putting out the message that the situation must be addressed now, or it will turn into a massive conflict. Some going so far as to say the only solution is for the Senegalese fishermen and their families to pack and leave. Mohamed Lamin Choi, Qtv News.
Unfortunate situation there. Now, thousands of Gambians and non-Gambians gathered on Sunday at Suncho Alaji to pay their last respects as the Inspector General of the Gambia Police Force, Mahmoud Job, was laid to rest. The 61-year-old police chief's death was announced on Saturday after apparently battling a short illness. Babakar has the rest of that.
The death of IGP Job is a huge loss to the nation, as his appointment as Inspector General of Police was a culmination of decades of excellent service in the Gambia Police Force. His tenure ushered in reforms within the service where citizens' rights, liberties and freedoms are respected and protected in the Third Republic. Alhaji Mahmoud Job was a widely respected policeman who demonstrated a high level of statesmanship throughout 40-plus year career serving his country. Mahmoud Job, who has passed away at the age of 61, is described as dignified, humbled, honest, and down-to-earth as a mentor who was always ready to advise others and share his experience. Witnesses who lived with him and work colleagues took turns to give their testimony of the late IGP. Government officials, ministers, religious leaders, security chiefs, and representatives from the sister republic in Senegal also took turns to speak in glowing terms about the disease. His career journey started after graduating from school in the early 80s, when he initially worked as a teacher. From this, he switched to policing. Shortly after his initial training as police officer, he served as a detective with the then CID. He also served as a drug law enforcement officer for a couple of years before he was transferred to the police training school as an instructor in general policing law, related evidence and procedures. He then spent the greater part of his career as the administrator of the police training school in Banjulunding. He was widely praised for his tireless efforts at the training school, an institution that he served for decades and helped shape many officers, said Alhaji Mambiram Job, one of his students in the 80s.
I think he was among those who first taught me at the police training school at Bakau. That was in 1982. And later on we formed an association called 1982 Care Intakes, of which I believe Chongan, the present Minister of Interior, and so many people are part and parcel of that association. He was a very nice man, very humble. He does not show himself out. Most of his life, he spent it at the school, teaching people, helping them. So I believe the position that he had, it was a position that he should have held. When I was the Chief of Operations West Coast Region, in 2011, I was with him. We have been moving together. His relative is everything of mine. Mahmoud is somebody who is excellent. No one on earth will stand here before you to say he has ever quarreled with me or he has ever insulted me. He was very friendly.
With his respect for human rights and rule of law, the Gambia Police under his leadership did much to reclaim the position and relationship it deserves between them and the community to encourage community policing. According to the government spokesperson Ibrahim Sankare, there are not enough words to describe the late man.
He was a great, extraordinary human being, a man who actually exemplified all the virtues of the consummate police officer. He was very disciplined, he was very methodical, he was very polite and very tactful as an officer, always smartly dressed. He was a man of great humility, a man whose humility is even beyond belief, considering the caliber of police officers, some police officers we have had in this country, particularly the past 2 decades. So for me, really, His character and his image captures the best of the police force. He was a great guy who will be missed greatly. His loss is a monumental loss, not only to the government, but to the entire people of the Gambia.
Alhaji Mahmoud Job is survived by 3 wives and 6 children. What a great loss to the country. May you rest in eternal peace, IGP Job, and thank you for your service. Babu Karsi, Qtv News.
May his soul rest in perfect peace. Now, the National Assembly resumed today for the first legislative year 2021. Here is a brief report.
The National Assembly resumed today for the first legislative year 2021, providing a platform for parliamentarians to discuss government activities and National Assembly matters. Some of the important issues highlighted at the opening of the session were the implementation and monitoring of the annual budget. Several parliamentary agreements will be considered, including amicable ties between the Gambia and other countries, including Senegal, Mauritania, Serbia, Bolivia, and Venezuela. Also, an agreement between the government of the Gambia and the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance, DICAV, for the establishment of a DICAV field office in the Gambia. Reporting for QTV News, I am Aliou Cisse.
From that story by Aliou Cisse, we will take a short commercial break. Still to come, we have more local news stories. Do stay with us. Welcome back from that short commercial break. If you're just tuning in, this is QTV News. Now, Gambian lawyer and women's rights advocate Musubah Kotosao has received the prestigious Daily Trust African of the Year award at a ceremony at the Tamala Beach Hotel. I attended the ceremony. The award was presented by the Daily Trust Board chairperson at a low-key ceremony due to the coronavirus pandemic. It was announced in January 2021 that Gambian activist and lawyer Musubah Kotosao had won the Daily Trust African of the Year award. The chairperson of the Board of Directors for Daily Trust, Kabiru Abdullahi Yusuf, over the weekend presented the award and a check for $10,000.
We thought in order to encourage cooperation and understanding across Africa, we should have an award every year, which we call the Daily Trust African of the Year Award, which we give to what we call an ordinary African who has done something extraordinary. This is not for politicians, for big business people, but for people who in their own communities are trying to make an impact and improve the life of others.
Musubah Kotosao's selection was that in this period of COVID-19, women have been particularly impacted negatively, especially during lockdown, when the rates of sexual and gender-based violence has risen significantly. Musu says the award came as a surprise and that she dedicates it to women and girls.
When you do work and there is a sense of fulfillment that you get from that work, then you know that it's something that is worthy of continuing to do in spite or despite the challenges that you may face. As an activist, a women's rights activist in particular, someone who identifies as feminist, from a really, really young age, I attach importance to volunteering and giving back to my community. The recognitions are not the reasons why I do this work. For me, it's about the love for my country, the love for women and girls in this country, and the need for us to live a meaningful life in this country.
Musu was also the recipient of the 2017 Verachiwa Award from the Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria, South Africa. She is also recognized as one of the 100 most influential young persons in West Africa by the Confederation of West African Youths in 2018 and a recipient of Inspiring Gambian Award 2018 by the People's Choice Awards for Excellence in the Gambia and QTV's Youth Dialogue Youth of the Month in May 2019. In normal times, the award ceremonies are held in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, where the Daily Trust headquarters is located. Reporting for QTV News, I am Jenna Bosonko. Well-deserved award. Now, sustainable organic waste collection is becoming a priority for many. In support of this, 5 tricycles for organic waste collection for markets on the KMC were handed to the municipality on Monday. Loli M. Kamara attended the presentation ceremony and she has more.
These tricycles are funded by UNDP under a project supporting the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources. A well-managed waste separation scheme for organic waste collection can go a long way towards providing a range of environmental benefits, as organic waste could be turned into compost. In addition, it can be cost-effective. It is hoped that the donation of these tricycles to the council will help mitigate littering on our streets and markets. Receiving the tricycles, Talib Ahmed Ben Souda, the mayor of KMC, outlined some of the initiatives his council has taken in trying to keep KMC clean. He added that these tricycles will add value to the cleansing unit.
These tricycles are also in line with that concept of sustainability because they're electric. They'll be consuming less fuel and be on electric power, which really is part of the UN's goal, the SDGs, to have sustainable cities. So I've been told it's 10, and these are the first 5. And those who know me know I love things that are about the environment and cleanliness of the city. We know KMC's goal is to be one of the cleanest cities in the sub-region, and we really have dedicated service staff.
Saturday, UNDP resident rep states her institution's readiness for more partnership with KMC.
We are very happy to be here, and I just want to thank you again and to reiterate our engagement to continue to support KMC and other municipalities through and to make sure that the SDGs that for which we are entering the last decade can be a reality for the Gambians.
Laming S. Sanyang, Director of Services with KMC, said this is the first time KMC has received waste collection trucks that do not consume fuel. He further explained what is next now that the council has received the tricycles.
These tricycles are going to be used to collect organic waste from markets. We are doing some separations at the market. We want to use the organic waste. And then the project will also fund a composting plant that is going to be built in one of the vegetable gardens, and so that it can produce compost for women vegetable gardeners.
Mr. Sanyang also added that already a committee is in place, which will work with other partners and women gardeners in making it a sustainable project. After the presentation, the team went to the busy Serakunda market to give a practical demonstration of the separation of organic and non-organic waste. The Kanifi Municipal Council remains committed to keeping our streets and public places clean. They also want the residents to complement their efforts by taking ownership of these initiatives to ensure their success and sustainability. For QTV News, Loli M. Kamara.
From that story by Loli M. Kamara, we will take a short commercial break. Still to come, we have business and international news. Do stay tuned. Welcome back from that short commercial break. If we're just tuning in, this is Qtv News and I am Jenna Bosonko. On to some business news. Tiwawan travel on tours, Ma Farmers Market and SAS Cosmetology through the Senegalo-Gambia network of women entrepreneurs on Saturday donated solar lamps to various women's groups and water tanks for women gardeners. The donation is part of the network's activities in celebration of the International Women's Day. More in this report.
The Senegalo-Gambia network is a women-led organization consisting of women entrepreneurs in Senegal and the Gambia. The network was established to support women-led businesses in the two countries. The network also organizes annual trade fairs and symposiums where issues affecting women entrepreneurs are discussed. As part of activities marking the International Women's Day celebration, the network, through 3 of its affiliate members, on Saturday donated solar lamps to several women groups within the Greater Banjul area and the West Coast region. Receiving one of the solar lamps on behalf of her neighborhood in Fajara, Ajimali Jobate Diouf, the vice president of the network, expressed gratitude to members of the Senegalo-Gambia network for reaching out to them, adding that the donated lamps will help strengthen security in the neighborhood. She went on to pay tribute to women in both countries for their selfless service.
Whatever their ambition is, I pray that the Almighty Allah bless them abundantly. This will undoubtedly be very helpful to the neighborhood. When night falls, it's usually very dark here, but with these solar lamps, we wouldn't be afraid to go out at night.
The Secretary General Aji Fatunjai and Fatumata Sanyang, also a member of the network, shared words of encouragement and urged members of the community to take good care of the lamp to ensure its longevity. Among the communities who benefited from the network's generous gesture is Sanyang, where women vendors and fishmongers at the Sanyang beach received 2 solar lamps. Various speakers thanked the network for what they describe as a timely gesture. Conveying a message of appreciation and encouragement to the women of Sanyang, Advocacy of Tiwawan Travel and Tours and president of the Senegalo-Gambia network says the association is aware of the plight of women entrepreneurs in both countries and call on government and NGOs to support them. Women, she adds, should be empowered.
This is why we are doing everything possible at our level to support women, especially women entrepreneurs. We understand the challenges you are facing, but I urge you all to keep working hard and continue to impact positively. Our organization is here for the women, and we will do everything within our limits to support you.
From Sanyang, the team also visited women gardeners in Besse, where the network's social secretary, Fatmata Jawara, through her Ma Foundation, donated 2 water tanks and 2 solar plates for the construction of a borehole at the Besse Women Garden, where over 450 women earn their living. Access to water, they say, has always been a problem. At the presentation, the village Alcalo Nyakasi Baji, women's leader Ali Majaju, and youth representative Kadi Sedi all commended Mrs. Jawara for the gesture. Addressing the crowd, Mrs. Jawara paid tribute to the women, saying how delighted she was to be able to fulfill a promise she made a few months ago.
We came to celebrate our women, our rural women, very dynamic women who are working in agriculture. We came to see how best we can support their initiatives, because if you look at these women in this village, there are over 450 women working in the garden, and access to water is a very big challenge for them.
Most of these humanitarian interventions and initiatives supported by the network are from proceeds members make from their businesses, most of which is used to support women entrepreneurs. Answane Sonyasi for Qtv News.
On to some international news. The U.S. government says Ethiopia's forces are committing ethnic cleansing in the country's northern Tigray region, prompting a furious response from the government. Momodu Mboj tells us more.
The accusation was made to a U.S. Congressional Committee last week by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who called for an independent investigation into the human rights abuses. The U.S. accusation is among a slew of accusations against Ethiopia in recent weeks from the UN itself, rights groups and media agencies. UN Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet said last week that her office had evidence of human rights violations that could amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. She said she had corroborated information about incidents, including indiscriminate shelling in the regional capital of Mekele and the towns of Humera and Adigrat in November when Ethiopia launched an offensive. She said she had also verified reports of grave human rights violations and abuses, including mass killings in Aksum and in Dengarat in central Tigray by Eritrean armed forces, and that her investigation had identified several possible perpetrators, including the Ethiopian federal troops, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, Eritrean armed forces, and other regional militias. Her finding came a week after Amnesty International had reported that Eritrean troops had killed hundreds of people in the region. The New York-based NGO Human Rights Watch on March 5th made a similar claim. Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, the medical charity, in a statement on Monday, condemned what it says is the looting, vandalizing, and destroying of the regional treatment structures in a deliberate and generalized manner. It says that the region's health services face collapse following months of military conflict. The Ethiopian government has vehemently denied the accusations. A foreign ministry statement read, "Nothing during or after the end of the main law enforcement operation in Tigray can be identified or defined by any standards as a targeted, intentional ethnic cleansing against anyone in the region, and the Eritrean government has denied any involvement in the fighting." However, the UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Mark Lowcock, has told a Security Council session on the crisis that, and I quote, "It is now abundantly clear to all and openly acknowledged by officials of the government administration in Tigray that Eritrean defense forces are operating throughout Tigray," end of quote. Information on what has been happening on the ground has been slow to emerge because, until early March, the region had been off-limits to most international media and observers. The fighting, which began in November last year, has now cost thousands of lives, displaced an estimated 2.2 million people, and put 4.5 million people, half of whom are children, in need of emergency food assistance. At least 56,000 citizens, mainly women and children, have already fled across the border to Sudan. The UN has warned of potentially catastrophic hunger and pleaded for urgent humanitarian access in Tigray, which it says, despite a UN agreement with Ethiopia, has been minimal, and hundreds of thousands of people in rural parts of the region have not been reached. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has joined calls for Eritrean troops to leave Tigray, but divisions at the UN Security Council stopped the international community from reaching a consensus on a joint statement. Russia and fellow permanent member China voted against the statement. The three African nations on the Security Council, Kenya, Niger, and Tunisia, supported the statement, which would have called for immediate humanitarian assistance as well as a halt to hostilities. The AU, beyond the calls to stop the fighting and a failed peace mission, has not been able to influence events. Meanwhile, the crisis deepens. The suffering goes on. For QTV News, I am Amadou Mbouch.
Before we end this news bulletin, let's take a quick look at our main stories. There's tense situation in Sanyang after one man is killed and many left injured. The situation spiraled out of control after a suspected bicycle thief was being pursued. Gambians gathered in their numbers to pay their last respects to Alhaji Mahmoud Job, the Inspector General of Police, who was laid to rest on Sunday. Gambian lawyer and women's rights advocate Musuba Kotosao has received the prestigious Daily Trust African of the Year award. In business news, celebration of International Women's Day continue as women entrepreneurs receive solar lamps and water tank donations. In international news, the U.S. government has joined the chorus of disapproval over the Ethiopia's government's actions in its Tigray region. Well, that is all we have for you in this edition of QTV News. Thanks for watching. Do take care of yourselves and do have a great week ahead.